Happy New Year and welcome back to this channel where I bring you development in the energy industry. And this time I will share a few of the major stories in recent times. First is the big story. Dangote has picked Honeywell for its refinery upgrade. Recall that Dangote refinery announced its plans to double the capacity of its refinery from 650,000 barrels per day to 1.4 million barrels per day by 2028, which will make it the largest refinery complex in the world. Now in a landmark development for Nigeria's energy sector, Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals has announced a strategic partnership with Honeywell International to support its ambitious expansion plans. The question is, why Honeywell? Dangote says Honeywell was chosen because of its cutting-edge refining technology. It says the very efficient systems that Honeywell will bring on board would help the refinery process its crude faster, cleaner, and with higher efficiency. In simple terms, more fuel, less waste, better system performance. Why does this matter for Nigeria? This upgrade could finally reduce Nigeria's dependence on imported petrol and diesel, strengthen the naira by cutting FX spending, and stabilize fuel supply. Now we know that Nigeria is a very unique country, and all things being equal, this can be very much achieved. We could also see expansion in petrochemical production, opening doors for the manufacturing of plastics, packaging materials, thousands of new jobs created, and stronger long-term energy security. What to look out for? While the potential benefits are significant, focus and execution will be very critical, especially with contracts of this magnitude. Challenges may include the integration of advanced technology, ensuring reliable infrastructure, maintaining environmental compliance, and aligning production with market demand. What is certain is that if Dangote was able to build the plant, despite the myriads of challenges it faced, expanding may not necessarily be easier because of the risk it portends to global competitors, many of whom have already shut down their refinery operations and some may still shut down. We wish Dangote success and all the best as it embarks on this ambitious project. Next is Colombia, that has packaged a $160 million aid to power utilities amid liquidity crisis. In many countries, the power sector operates on razor-thin margins, juggling tight liquidity and complex subsidy regimes just to keep the lights on. Utilities often struggle with delayed payments, rising costs, and the ever-present risk of financial stress. And in tough economic times, governments inevitably step in to prevent wider disruption. Colombia is now confronting such a moment, facing a deep liquidity crunch among power retailers. Bogotá has packaged a $160 million in emergency aid to keep the system solvent, ease cash flow pressures, and avert a broader disruption in electricity supply. This is a striking reminder that essential services like electricity can be vulnerable when liquidity is insufficient. To put it in proper context, this aid package is not a new funding for the power sector, but rather an accelerated payment of subsidies that the government is obliged to pay to the power distribution and retail companies. Just like in many countries, including Nigeria, Colombia operates a cross-subsidy system where higher income households and commercial users pay slightly elevated tariffs to subsidize the cost of electricity for lower income households. In Nigeria, we have the banding system where band-A customers pay more than customers in other bands. The problem is the usual delays in payments of these subsidies to the operators due to shortage in cash collections and payments, bureaucracy, fiscal constraints, or errors in calculation of subsidy, which creates a major cash flow deficit for sector operators. The impact of these subsidy payment delays to operators is that operators struggle to cover their own expenses, inability to pay cost of bulk power purchased from generation companies, the GenCos, and liquidity crisis across the value chain. How did the debt burden accumulate in Colombia? Now, this is due to several structural problems within Colombia's energy industry. These include the decision of the government during the COVID-19 pandemic to order utilities to defer tariff collections from low-income households, leaving utilities with billions in uncollected revenue that the government promised to cover. As of early 2025, outstanding debt from various fees and subsidies owed to distributors was estimated to be around 3.1 trillion pesos. That's approximately $750 million. There is also the structural subsidy lag beyond the pandemic, which is the gap between the time retailers pay power generators and the time the government compensates them for the subsidies granted to energy consumers. Now, part of the challenge is the impact of climate change on its hydropower plants. Colombia relies on hydroelectric power for over 60% of its electricity. Climate change, particularly the recurring El Niño phenomenon, has caused droughts that reduce hydropower output and force the country to use more expensive thermal generation from gas and coal, increasing the cost of electricity and further straining the financial positions of retailers. The El Niño is a natural climate phenomenon caused by unusually warm sea surface temperatures in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean. It weakens trade winds and disrupts global weather patterns, leading to floods, droughts, heat waves, and changes in rainfall. These impacts affect agriculture, energy supply, fisheries, and economic stability worldwide. What Colombians need to expect: the accelerated $160 million payment is a short-term stabilization measure and not a long-term solution. There will be temporary stability, no doubt. The aid should immediately inject some needed cash into the power retail sector, reducing the risk of collapse of the power sector or persistent payment delays to power generators. It would also prevent immediate service cuts or blackouts tied directly to the liquidity crisis. And while this might be a short-term fix, the government has been actively debating structural reforms for the sector, including the controversial proposals to shift utility debt burdens onto higher income households. This will be met with hard resistance, no doubt. But what must happen is for the government to agree and implement a sustainable measure for the power sector. And that's a wrap for now. Kindly comment, share, and follow this channel for more informative updates on the energy industry. I am Babatunde, and I will see you in the next one.